The kid may just be starting out, but he knows his risk management. Welcome back, guys. This is the fourth installment of the Trashed Corvette Clear Coat. My name is Brian from Apex Detail. Let's get back to it. We have the front and the back deck lids corrected, cut. They just need to be finished. Let's work on the roof here. This little strip, this band between the sunroof and the back window, also damaged, heavily stained, heavily etched, and had to be wet sanded. So now we can get to some of the microfibers. All shapes, all sizes, and this is just a very small fraction of what's available to you guys out there when it comes to cutting microfiber pads. The Lake Country HDO pads to the Eurofiber 50/50 pads, 6-inch, 5-inch, 4-inch, all the way down to 1-inch pads. Huge percentage of the companies out there will designate the white pads as cutting pads, but there are a few that use black fibers for cutting pads. So let's look at the HDO from Lake Country. As you can see, your standard pad, but brand new. I do want to show you there are little speckles of dirt, dust, and grit to get out of there. Right out of the bag, wash them first, get them cleaned. We're going to use the Lake Country microfiber cut pad on this portion of the roof up here. Again, it's been wet sanded. We tried to remove as much as the etching and a lot of the imperfections as we could with the 2000 grit and then step down to 3000 grit. Let's remove all of that junk with the HDO pads. And the same compound we've been using pretty much all the way around this car, the 3D ACA 500. Mixed with 2 drops of 3D1 in there just to extend the open time or the cycle time and get a little bit better finish out of it. I'm going to do my best to give you as many angles as I can with these different types of pads so you can see how they react with the panel, what they do to the polisher. Do they make it vibrate? Do they make it jump? Is it a nice smooth ride across the panel? What does it do to the compound? I'm going to try and get you a good look at all of that. When using the microfiber on the dual action polisher, and we'll get to using microfiber pads on a rotary, I'll use the DA in between the 3rd and the 4th speed setting. I usually just guide the polisher back and forth with only a little bit of pressure being applied from my thumb. I'll never rest my hand on top of it, applying weight from myself. I'll let the weight of the polisher be the down force on the pad. Now that we've jumped from the wool pads to the microfiber pads, both cutting pads, let's talk about the differences. Well, the wool pads are going to run cooler. Air flows quite freely through the fibers, being plush and thick and sparse. Microfiber pads, they're being drawn close together. They're shorter. There's less airflow between the backing plate, the pad, the fibers, and the surface of your car. Temperatures are going to spike a little bit higher. All right, that'll do it. Let me remove the residue, and I'll grab you guys, bring you in close so we can check out the work that the Lake Country microfiber cut pad did. When it comes to cut pads, microfiber, straight up cut, it's going to be Lake Country for me. And there are many brands out there. I'm not saying that's the best for you. It just happens to be a favorite for me, and it does fantastic. When it comes to cut, guys, you're going to be working, you're going to have a little bit longer work time with microfiber cut pads compared to wool on a rotary. It's just a little bit speedy. Wool on a rotary is going to be a quicker cut. You'll get done quicker. It'll be a little bit cooler. And as we can see, as we put that pad we used under the microscope, all of those fibers, just like a wool pad, are now pulled together, clumped together because of the compound and the gunk that we pulled off of the clear coat. Has to be cleaned. And I'm going to point out some pieces of residue that are like curling up and balling up that could cause trouble if you put that pad back down on the panel. This here is, it's in a Chemical Guys pad cleaner bottle that's been spent. I make my own, guys, and I'll give you the recipe. It's exactly the same stuff that I will use for interiors. I never find that, you know, a good interior product works well for me, so I make my own. And I also carry that over into pad cleaning. Wool pad, microfiber pad, and foam pads, and I'll give you the recipe right here. The ratios will differ depending on the size of the bottle you're using. I'm just using a small 8-ounce bottle here, and that's going to be 3 or 4 ounces of a prep. Could be any prep, any panel prep or IP solution. And here's my 1, 2, and 3 ounce measuring cup. That just comes from the top of a laundry detergent bottle. Okay, Extra Tough, one of my favorite cleaners. That's going to be used straight up here, and we're going to use a 1/2 ounce in this little 8 ounce. Again, depending on the severity of the interior or the pads, I may use more, and if I have a bigger bottle, it's going to be different as well. But we're going to use a 1/4 ounce of Dawn, a 1/4 ounce of Tide. That first ingredient is huge, the panel prep, the IP or the alcohol. That will be a neutralizer for residue. And if you don't have that, you can use 1 ounce or 2 of peroxide. So OxyClean, just enough on the bottom of that little scoop that they provide to cover up the bottom of it, and then dump that in as well. Those will dissolve within 20-25 minutes. Shake it up, let it sit, let it dissolve, and the concoction will be ready to go. That's my recipe. It works well for me. If you ever get a chance to try it, give it a shot. Let me know how it works for you. The rest of the bottle will be filled up with purified water, spring water, whatever you have. Whether it's in a larger 32-ounce spray bottle or this little one here, that's the color you're looking for, a very light blue. The pad I'm going to pull out here has been through 5 corrections. It's beat up, the sides are beat up, the fibers are getting short. It's soon time to retire it. However, this recipe that I made, the concoction, keeps it nice and fluffy and clean, and I'll show you under the microscope here. All right, let's get to the back rear quarter panel, passenger side. Now, this is the first time we're jumping on this panel, so we want to clean it off. You have residue, you have splattered polishes and compounds. You want to remove all that. And there could be even a chance of some old wax or sealant on that panel that could get transferred to the pad, clog it up, and make it less effective. This is what we're after, some of the heaviest stuff on this panel. There's scratches, swirls, and etching. But we have a cluster right here of scratches, and this is what I do with these areas is I spot correct them as I get them. Spot correcting them by wet sanding, and I'll show you exactly how I go about doing that as well. All right, with these superficial scratches, and that's exactly what they are, not deep at all. I know 3000 grit is going to remove them. Once you get experience, a little time, doing these, you'll be able to walk up to an imperfection, a scratch, or whatever, and right away it's going to click. You're going to know what to use. You can see here that white milky residue is clear. And here's another scratch. Let's take care of that too. I'll sand until I see the white milky residue, and that's clear coat that we're shaving. As soon as I see that, I know it's good enough to stop and check my work. With the superficial scratches, I'll be able to wipe it off, and if it still remains there, it's not going to blend in with the rest of those scratches, those fine 3000 grit. It'll stand out. I don't see that, so I know it's gone. Same thing over here. We have removed them with just 3000 grit. And that's a heck of a lot better than hanging over that area with a dual action polisher or whatever, spiking temperatures in that one area. It's just so much easier and safer for clear coat by wet sanding. here is one of the very few pads where the cutting fibers are black in color, and I want you to take a look at those under the microscope. They're very thick, very plush. The strands, however, independent strands are thin. It's just that there are so many of them and they're all gathered together. When they work as one, this is a very effective pad here. That's why I have it. The thing is, though, with that type of a pad, you have to keep it clean for it to be effective. And this is a type of pad, one of the very few microfibers that, you know, I could go ahead and put it on the Rotary for myself or anybody at the shop here. I normally don't recommend putting microfiber on a Rotary just because then it gets too aggressive and starts to spike temperatures. However, you know, if you're comfortable with the Rotary and you have a plush, thick microfiber pad like this, you can go ahead and put it on. It's not going to be the most comfortable ride across the panel. You're going to find, if your Rotary is susceptible to skipping, you're going to find it skipping a lot more. You'll have to move your hands, your arm movement's going to be a little bit quicker to keep those temperatures down and to keep, you know, the cut a little less aggressive. Yes, you do hear me talking about temperatures. Very important, guys. If a panel or a car as a whole heats up, perfectly fine. Sitting out in the sun, you know, depending on what region you're in. But if a panel heats up in one area where the rest of the panel is room temperature at 72, 73 degrees, that's where you have a lot of contraction and expansion in just one area, and that causes trouble and is a lot of stress on clear coat. Alright, got the residue off of there. Let me bring you guys in close and you can take a look at the work that that pad does on a Rotary. It does very well. It actually finishes down rather well too, and you know, I will have to finish it with a very fine polish and a wax pad or an application pad, but it looks decent now already. As we slide closer to that passenger side door, on the corner panel yet, we still find yet another scratch. And this thing has plenty of them. Just, you know, keep your eyes open, keep them peeled, and we're going to correct those on the fly as we come across them. And yet, again, I can see that one we can take care of with 3000 grit. If I work it and I see it's not enough, I will step to 2000 grit and then finish it off with 3000 grit. It's very, very rare that I have to go to 2000 grit. That is something that would be very deep into the clear. And I really don't go any more aggressive than 2000 grit. You see that milky residue? So we'll wipe off and clean up the area, and we'll be able to see nothing stands out from that 3000 grit that we just used. So it's taken care of. We can move on. You would easily be able to see if something still remained there, it would stand out from the rest of those scratches from the 3000 grit. So we'll grab the Rotary and that microfiber cut pad, and we'll get to work and we'll finish off this quarter panel, and we're pretty far around this car. We're getting to the finish line. And there it is. That quarter panel's done. It's cut. All the scratches removed. Just needs a little bit of finishing. And by the way, just that quarter panel, you can see how clumped up the pad is. And there are a couple pieces of residue that are balling up. And with the heat, they're going to get hard. And when you introduce that back to the panel, well, you know what happens. Let's get to another microfiber here. This one is a little bit different. It's more aggressive, a short pile. Very dense, but short. And as you look under the microscope, it looks very similar to the first one, the HDO from Lake Country. Same type of fibers, very small, thin. They are workers though, and when they have a short pile like this pad here is aggressive, and I would not put it on a rotary. Great for a long throw polisher. Again, being one of the few panels left, and we're just getting to it, we want to clean off all the dust and residue and splatter. We don't want that getting up onto the pad. Just use the panel prep of your choice or IP solution. The usual damage we've had all the way around the car, plus another cluster of superficial scratches. I'm not sure if there was a cover on this thing. It sat outside, and the cover with the wind was working into the clear coat. It's a possibility, but who knows? But all of these are coming out with 3000 grit, and that's exactly what I'm using here, the 3000 grit Trizact, and the little block that I kept from my 3M headlight restoration kit, that foam palm block. All right, let's use this pad, the one I just showed you up close. I believe this one here is the honey combination pad. I will try and put as many links as I can down below in the description box for you. That will do. Let me remove the residue. Give me a second to grab you guys, bring you in close, so we can inspect the progress. That will do. All imperfections removed, and all that shows through now is that gorgeous metallic green. All right, very good. We have the cutting portion finished of this correction on everything except for 2 panels, the driver's side door and front fender, and we're going to save that for a few cutting foam pads. Everything's looking great. We have everything out except for a few areas of imperfection that are down through the clear or too deep into the clear, where we will not go after them, compromise the clear and its ability to protect from UVA, UVB. That's going to do it for part 3. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. If you like the content, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. That'll notify you when we have fresh content coming out from the channel for you guys. Till the next video, have a great one.